You should see my screen time. I just cannot stop scrolling for that information about what's happening. And it's so sad that all I could do is just see that information and just make dua, and that's all I could do. I'm far, and it's really, and another sad thing is that it's really sad that we cannot send money to support them. And that's the hardest thing. It's like, if only I can send all my money, to support them, send them water, send them food, send them clothes, anything.
They were showing some countries that were sending food, like from the borders.
It won't enter. They can't get in. Israel is right now intending on a big massacre.
Big time.
On a big massacre to wipe out a whole 2.2. In fact, they don't even care to wipe out 5 and 6 and 7 million.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Just a question quickly. Is there anything within Gaza to buy at the moment, even if you do send them money?
So there are definitely still some supplies, but the supplies, they're going to wear out. There are certain supplies that, you might get, for example, some supplies for a whole year, but then when you're talking about demolishing a lot of the other supplies, for example, on one side or in one area, etc., then you're actually talking about, and not bringing more supplies, then that's the end of it. You're talking about 2.2 million or 2.5 million. You're really ending the supplies. So even if you send the money, it's not the issue of money. And that's one thing, is that I would say really, it's really sad that I'm saying be careful from believing a lot of these people that are claiming to take donations to send to Gaza. Be careful from that. A lot of it is nothing but a scam. A lot of it is nothing but a scam. So be careful. You're going to find a lot of people claiming that they're donating for Gaza and all of that. And it's really, a lot of it is a lie right now. There aren't any humanitarian aids to be entered or to be brought to Gaza, nothing. So you want to be really careful. I don't know what we can do right now other than, yes, make dua. Number 2 is speak up, whether through the media, whether it's on the post, whether it's in your school, whether it's talk to the politicians, etc., even though they only know their pockets. But speaking person to person can do a lot more than sending out an email or a petition. Speaking out in person can do a lot. All right, let's continue. We're going to talk about Jannah. We're still continuing to talk about Jannah. And the question is in terms of the most important thing that you want in Jannah. And we were talking about family. We were talking about food. We were talking about the hur. And the most important thing is that we said the sentiments are totally different. There's a lot of emphasis, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an, that they would only hear qawlan salama, or peaceful talk. They would only hear words that are bringing them peace, words that are bringing them, this is beyond.
I don't know. What's happening? Is it getting more distracting? What's wrong? Was it used to be like this?
Can you tell them?
Khadija.
Tell Khadija. All right. So the place that we left off at was the age of the inhabitants of paradise. So let's see, the Prophet ﷺ, the people of paradise shall enter paradise without body hair. That's not actually accurate, because the word is not without body hair, it's murda. Il-murd is not without body hair. Il-murd is more without facial hair. Okay, so that's a different thing. With kuhul on their eyes, 30 years of age or 33. So the hadith, it's not that they won't have, you could see this hadith is in a Tirmidhi, and he said it was Hasan, but the age of 30 or 33, all right, there was really a debate between scholars on whether the age is 30 or 33, or whether this hadith in itself is actually authentic or not. At the end of the day, is that when we look at the ayat are telling us of that they will be one, abkar, that they uruban atraba, they're close in age. In other words, they're basically close in age to mean that they're all in one age, they're all not having that difference, they're all vibrant. And the word uruban, what is uruban? Uruban, what is uruban, Zainab? The ayah says uruban atraba. Uruban. They love their husbands, and their husbands love them. Oh, it's a urub. Nice, huh? You want to love your husband? Yeah, okay, good. Description of the faces of the inhabitants of paradise. Wanted to wake you up. إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نظرة النعيم. So verily, or inna, indeed the righteous will be in pleasure on adorned couches. على الأرائك ينظرون, adorned couches. No, why adorned? على الأرائك ينظرون, observing. Well, here it's not observing per se. على الأرائك ينظر, well, no, it is right. على الأرائك ينظرون, so they're sitting on couches, they're basically, and what a couch is supposed to resemble is that rest, comfort, prestige. تعرف في وجوههم نظرة النعيم. This one is rather interesting, because when you say تعرف في وجوههم نظرة النعيم, the happiness is not only available in amount, but you could see on the happiness on a person's face. They're so happy that their faces are speaking of happiness. In other words, you could see it. في وجوههم نظرة النعيم, not نظرة. So it's not that they're looking with eyes of happiness. نظرة النعيم. النظر is like a certain facial description where there is having like a glow of happiness, a glow of happiness, a glow where they're basically, it's speaking, their faces are speaking and saying, we are in pleasure. نظرة النعيم. Go ahead, Mish'al.
Assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to ask you, because you're saying it's not necessarily like it's just facial hair. So like what about other body hair that we're looking forward to not having in Jannah?
Fair enough. So in Jannah, when you look at the description, for example, al-hur, it would talk about that you could see,
Yes.
and you could see mukha avniha. You could, in this life, you definitely don't want to see a person transparent. That's ugly, right? But this is a description not to say that she's transparent somehow. No, it's that she's so, exactly like they would do the filters.
So radiant.
There you go, radiant. There's no scratch, no nothing. It's very smooth, very smooth.
Okay.
Right. So the facial and the body here, that's in a certain time. Later on, they will have different features. That's just when they first enter. When they first enter, it's going to be different. I know. Sayyida Aysha used to say, Subhana alladhi zayyana al-nisa'a bil-liha or zayyana al-rijala bil-liha wa al-nisa'a bil-dhawa'ib. Subhana alladhi زين الرجال باللحى والنساء بالذوائب. That was the Sayyidah Aisha. What was she saying? Glory be unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that beautified men with beards and women with dhawa'ib, with braids. Oh, with braids. Yeah, that's a Sayyidah Aisha. She's like, that's really the most beautiful thing. That was a Sayyidah Aisha's perspective. It's like, what makes a man handsome is really the beard. What makes a woman pretty is really the braid. That's her perspective. It doesn't mean, you know, that this is necessarily,
Well, I mean, different.
of course, that, I mean, you can, I don't know, do different hairstyles for your hair and cuts. I'm sure they didn't have the material that we have today, right? And their style was different. Remember, at the time, they didn't have all the different products that we have today to do hair and fix hair. So we end up, if you didn't have the products, you didn't have the tools to make hair at the time, it was either going to be big or it's going to be fixed. All right. And the only way to fix it at their time was only with braids. So she said, Subhanallah, zayyana rijala bil-liha wa nisaa bid-dhawa'ib. Tells you with beauty, it's also having that manly appearance with a lihya, with a beard. All right, let's continue. وجوه يومئذ ناظرة. Here's that, which is the same word here. All right, radiance. They said radiance of pleasure. So let's see this one. They will look radiant. That's the thing, is that radiant to mean there's no flaws, not on the body, not on the face. They will look radiant. It's looking glowy. Ya Allah, that's so beautiful. I can't think of a filter that does that. Can't imagine it. Looking at their Lord. Ya Allah, Allah ya Rabbi, yarzuqna. Looking at their Lord. They're looking at their Lord while they're in Jannah. But do all the people in Jannah get to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, the hadith do show that all the people in Jannah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would tell them, Ya Ahl al-Jannah, are you content right now? And they said, well, you gave us all that you promised us. How can we not be? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals his face, and Ahl al-Jannah will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll see everyone, Ahl al-Jannah, will see that the most beautiful thing in Jannah was to see the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was the most beautiful thing, to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why would seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be so beautiful? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beautiful and he loves beauty. And he loves beauty. If he tells you that jamal or beauty, that he was the one that was behind all the beauty. You see somebody beautiful and you just, even if it's a woman, right? As women, we see somebody beautiful. We know in the women's world, in the girls' world, if a girl is beautiful, for some weird reason, she gets a lot of privileges, right? And this is a woman like us. She gets a lot of privileges without her recognizing. And later she'll recognize that she's getting privileges because of her appearance, right? She'll get a lot of privileges. And later, when she grows older, she'll get a lot of privileges, even from the society, right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created her, all right, and they're getting that privilege from us, all right? And we recognize the beauty, and we would want to see, and you would say people would hang their photos, they would always follow them, etc., because they're recognizing their beauty. How is it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of such beauty?
It's probably different standards. Though.
A different standards, طبعاً, different standards. But at the same time, we love looking at beauty. we as people, it's part of our instinct that we love looking at beauty. We enjoy looking at beauty. We get a certain feeling about just looking at beauty. Just get a certain feeling. Just looking at beauty just makes you just want to keep on looking at it. People would pay a lot of money just for beauty. Pay a lot of money, whether it's beauty or whether it's appearance or even to buy a house. Just because you've got one side that's near the lake, your house would probably be 4 or 5 times the price of the house across the street that's not near the lake. Even though, if you want to come out and see the lake, you could just come out and see the lake. But just because you're getting a view, a lake view, that's going to multiply your price, right? Multiply the price. So when we're looking at beauty, the value, we recognize it. The value, we recognize it. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that the most important beauty is إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. They're looking at the faces of the Lord Almighty, and that is what's making them وُجُوهٌ نَاظِرَةٌ. That's what's making their faces be radiant. What was making their faces be radiant? It's when they saw the face of their Lord Almighty. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاعِمَةٌ لِسَعْيِهَا راضية في جنة عالية. So what is that? وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاعِمَةٌ. Those faces. صوتك مزعجني. وجوه يومئذ ناعمة. Days that are smooth. What will show pleasure? No, ناعمة is smooth, not will show pleasure. وجوه يومئذ ناعمة. The faces are smooth. So this is a wrong translation. It's not وجوه يومئذ ناعمة. Oh, actually, wait a minute. It can be ناعمة to mean that they're showing appearance of pleasure. And it could also mean ناعمة to mean smooth. So it can mean two things. The word ناعمة. لسعيها راضية. What is لسعيها? لسعيها for whatever they had done. Where? In this dunya. For whatever they had done, whatever they had put forward, راضية. What is a راضي? A راضي is content. They're content for all of that. في جنة عالية. In a jannah that is عالية, that is high. So that tells us there are different levels. There's a jannah عالية in where those that are in al-Firdaus, those are the ones that are getting the foundations of even all the different ni'am. So the ones that are in the top level, on the top level of Jannah, they're getting a totally higher level of stars, let's say it that way, in Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Rabbi make us part of those. وجوه يومئذ مسفرة مسفرة ضاحكة مستبشرة. وجوه يومئذ مسفرة. So those days would be bright, laughing. ضاحكة. The ضاحك is basically that. Well, yes, but الضحك is different than smiling.
It's laughing, yeah?
It's laughing. That's why الضحك, there's a certain tooth, a certain canine tooth. It's basically called the ضاحك. So when you start laughing, it only appears when you're laughing and not when you're smiling. Okay? ضاحكة مستبشرة. So they're in such happiness and such laughter that they're mustabishira. They're constantly, what is it, istibshar? Istibshar is to feel that rejoice for good news. You're expecting more good news, always. In other words, you're not living the anxiety. And this is very important because if you're seeing right now the rise of anxiety, even though the resources are available, more available than ever before in history. The resources, food, transportation, wealth, health, all of that, treatment, it's available more than ever before in history, especially here in the West. But then the anxiety level is going up. Why? Because
the more you have, the more you need.
what?
The more you have, the more you want. The more you need.
Exactly.
Well, one is because they're always looking for what they don't have.
Yeah.
Number two is that they're focusing on having on the outside. I think one of the worst things that had actually brought in more anxiety in women, at least, number one, the filters. Number two, cosmetic surgeries.
Society standards.
Absolutely. Basically, those cosmetic surgeries and the filters are really making it harder on women because they're always going to feel that I need to fix more. There's room. So what do? They're focusing on the outside, on the appearance. And then what was left? What was left was the inside. Al-qalb, al-akhlaq, the principle. And you would see that the people that live in a very simple society, poverty, etc., those are the people that actually have the best of akhlaq. Because the focus was not on material, because it's not available. So they would focus on akhlaq. They would focus on themselves. They would have a better definition and a better practice of what it means to be brother and sister, what it means to be caring, what it means to be humble, what it means to be spiritual, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. I'll tell you, yesterday I remembered this, all right? At one point in my life, we were living extremely poor. I mean, extremely poor. We really had nothing. And for a child, I was only 6, 7, 8 years old. We didn't even have toys. Nothing. So our only toys would be of toys that we would make out of mud, out of things that we would find on earth. That was it. And we had a lot of animals. I mean, a lot of animals. And we would sit in the chickens, I think it's called a coop or something like that, or something, I don't know what it's called, but anyhow. So we would clean the chickens area and we would sit there watching the chickens eat, and you don't want to feed them all the time, certain times, but we would sit there. And then of course we had nothing to share, nothing to say. It's not like we've had experiences. My aunt is a couple months older than me. My sister is a year and 8 months younger than me. So we would sit next to the chickens and say stories, but we don't have any stories. So the stories that we would say are basically the stories that we dreamt of in a dream. So my sister, my first sister, would a minute, 2 minutes, she's done with her story. That's it. My aunt, a minute, 2 minutes, she's done with her dream, she's done. With me, on the other hand, it's just a small dream for sure. It was a short dream, but I will spend 15, 20 minutes, half an hour just talking about the dream, and they would fall asleep while I was saying the dream. And then I would start shaking them, wake up, the dream is not done yet. And I'm like, that's why I have no victims. I'm not done yet. Something that can be said in 2 minutes, I'll say it, I'll spend half an hour talking about it. It's like new victims. So everybody online, you're all my new victims. I'm not done yet. Yep, here we go. How did we get there? Why did we, yeah, the simple life, it will make you cherish even the small things, whether it's the earth, the relationships, the happy moments, etc. You recognize the inside. But those that are living in a materialistic world, they'll just spend more and more money in search of more materialism, in search of more of dunya, and then they don't recognize that the real happiness is not by bringing things from the outside. It won't come on the inside. That the true happiness actually comes from the inside. The true happiness is really built when you actually have the sentiments, and not only the sentiments, but when you build on the inside the real principle that makes you happy. The real principle, al-akhlaq. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was emphasizing always. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Rida is on the inside. Rida is on the inside. But Ahl al-Jannah, they'll have the resources, the materialistic things on the outside, and they'll also be content on the inside. So let's continue this ayah. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ بِيَضَّتْ وُجُوهُهُمْ فَفِي رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. What is أَمَّا الَّذِينَ بِيَضَّتْ? Is that saying that being dark-faced is not beautiful? No, this is not talking about that. بِيَضَّتْ, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard. The best example is how is the Palestinian. They have the best iman. Not sure I agree with that. I think we're
I think they're probably talking about Palestinians that are living in Gaza, right?
That's what she's talking about. Resistance.
Yeah, that's kind of what we see now, that they're like so like
connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
yeah,
right
How
now.
they endure
yeah,
the pain and suffering.
Yeah, well,
That's true.
yeah, if you see it from
Yeah.
that angle, you know, a human being during suffering, that's when they're closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ بِيَضَّتْ وُجُوهُهُمْ فَفِي رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Those that are بِيَضَّتْ has nothing to do with turning white. This is a metaphor, really, so I wouldn't necessarily agree with this translation. So this is talking about a glow. This is a metaphor. This is not really turning white. All right, this is a glow. بيضت وجوههم ففي رحمة الله هم فيها خالدون. And they're the ones that will be embraced with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, ففي رحمة الله, it's not accurate. They will be within the mercy. I would more word it as they will be embraced by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, ففي رحمة الله, this is a metaphor. They will abide therein eternally. Now that one I agree with. فَوَقَاهُمُ اللَّهُ شَرَّ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ وَلَقَاهُمْ نَضْرَةً وَسُرُورًا. Notice that when it talks about Jannah, that nadra is always present. In nadara, when we say nadra, we're talking about a certain radiance, a certain glow. So Allah will protect them from the evil of that day and give them radiance and happiness. Radiance and happiness. Radiance, they're glowing. Happiness. Let's continue this hadith. The first batch of the people who will enter paradise will be glittering like the full moon. And the batch next to them will be glittering like the most brilliant star in the sky. Their hearts will be as if the heart of a single man, for they will have neither enmity or jealousy amongst themselves. This is in order to tell us, you know, the same thing that the ayah. And so let's explain this one. The first batch of the people, they will be glittering like the moon. But does the moon actually glitter? That they will be glittering like the moon. So sometimes you're actually stuck especially when you're translating from one language to another, certain languages might have that as a metaphor. And this is actually a metaphor. Okay. So here in Lugha Arabiya, where that they'll be glowing with their faces like the moon. So in Lugha Arabiya, you in English, I mean, like the moon, you're like, what? How does that?
Well, I mean, in nighttime, the moon is.
Exactly. It's very obvious. It's glowing. It in the midst of all this darkness, it stands out in where it brings that light to let you no way miss it. But the first thing that you recognize is like in the midst of all this darkness, there's something that stands out in its brightness, in its glow. All right. So that's what it resembles in Lugha Arabiya. It's that glow. The batch next to them will be like a star. So when we're talking about, a smaller space. But the first one, there's actually a big difference between the size of a moon and the size of a star. Well, at least the way it appears to us, right? Because some stars are actually not sun, but you got a lot of stars are actually bigger than the moon. The moon is actually considered small compared to a lot of stars out there, considered really baby. All right. So this is not talking about the actual size, but this is actually speaking about the way that it appears to us. Let's see the description of welcoming the inhabitants of Jannah. وسيق الذين اتقوا وسيق الذين اتقوا ربهم إلى الجنة زمرا. What is a zumara? What?
Question.
Yes.
Who are those people? Are they like specific?
So when you look at Jannah, it's not all. Like when you look at this one, the first batch will enter paradise. They'll be like the moon, and the second batch will be like the star. Okay. This hadith did not actually say whether these are the sabiqun or whether this is speaking about that later came and what they did in order to be a part of that. But you will see that certain description, سِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. So now this is emphasizing that no, those that did taqwa. What is taqwa? Taqwa, although something might not be haram, but you're avoiding it because you're worried that it might get you closer to haram. You're avoiding. It's not haram, or at least your choice to not do it is really just because I'm just going to leave it for something better, which is in akhirah. Now that's the. We usually think that the border is halal haram, but for al-muttaqi, the border is not halal haram. The border is wider than that. Halal haram, that's reminds me of a hadith. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, what do I have to do to enter Jannah? And he was home, prayed the 5 times, fasting Ramadan. He was telling him. And he said, by Allah, I will not do anything else. I won't do it. I will not add anything else. No sunnah, etc. But the Prophet ﷺ said, أفلح والله إن صدق. Or أفلح وأبيه إن صدق. He would be أفلح, he would be successful. In other words, he will make it if he's honest about it. Now, here's one thing. Did the Prophet ﷺ say he wasn't going to be? No. But what is that hadith indicating? That if you put yourself to the limit, you have a high chance of slipping. If you put yourself to the limit. If all you do is just faridah, all you do is just the limit of hijab, the limit of halal haram, I'm just going to go to the limit. You don't put any investment that, you know, although this is not haram, but I'm going to let go. Although this is a different level. Although this is not haram, but I'm going to let go. Certain, and the most important, Ya Allah,
It's a lot of money.
it's a lot. I'm trying to focus and trying to ignore it, but I can't ignore the background noise. حتى where were we? سيق الذين اتقوا ربهم إلى الجنة زمرا. زمرا actually means in groups. Oh, they will be in groups. But why in group and not alone? Because when you're in a group, there's a support. You need support to go to Jannah. You're already happy. But no, what's the most lovable time for you? When you're having other people enjoy with you. Oh, what's the best party? Best thing about party is having the people.
Social.
Exactly. Socialize. Oh, that's why they're called zumara in groups. حتى إذا جاءوها وفتحت أبوابها. When it talked about Jahannam, it just said إذا جاءوها فتحت أبوابها. Just when they got there for Jahannam, right away the doors of hellfire opened. But for Jannah, no. There was a time during al-Qantara. For Jannah, they stood in front of the door of Jannah. There was a time, no, you can't go in right away. The doors are closed. This is a big deal. So here, وَفُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُهَا. وَفُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُهَا. Then the doors were opened, the doors of Jannah. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. Then the guards of Jannah, oh, what's the name of the guard of Jannah? What's the name of the guard of Jannah?
The door?
Ridwan. And the name of the guard of hellfire? Malik. Malik is the name of the guard of hellfire. Ridwan is the name of the one that's وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم. The first thing, peace. They didn't even enter yet, but they're still telling them, you're at peace. You made it. You made it. A long wait. In Yawm al-Qiyam, a long wait. During the times of Suhuf, a long wait. When you were going up and getting resurrected, Ya Allah, so scary. Just imagine. Just imagine when you just, everybody is, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Just imagining Yawm al-Qiyamah, wallahi, it's so scary to even think about.
Because I feel like you can think about it for days and days, you're never really going to have the real picture. I think it's always going to be more than what we can even imagine.
Well, to be honest, if you read a lot about it, you'll get a lot of ideas of what to expect. So the Prophet ﷺ would tell you, the hadith or the ayat would tell you of a lot of different things that will happen. And just imagining that is really beyond any mind to just fathom. When you're looking, even Anbiya are afraid. Why would they be afraid when they didn't even commit sin? Why would they be afraid? What do you mean standing for 50 and 100,000 years? What does that even mean? It's nothing that your brain can even imagine. What do you mean 50 to 100,000 years? What does it mean? What does it mean to be in a place where you can't even move, what does it mean that everyone is really, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ would tell you that people's rights, there's no one in Jannah or even in hellfire where someone's rights are dismissed, or at least someone's rights are neglected, but they'll have to have a compensation for it. And the Sahaba were confused. Well, how are they going to get compensated when, in other words, they didn't say it, but there's no money, there's nothing to compensate them with. But the Prophet ﷺ was telling them, well, they're al-hasanat al-sayyi'ah. They're their deeds, and the good deeds and the bad deeds. That's going to be the new currency now. The new currency is their deeds. It's really hard to imagine. And that's why taking the moment to actually do all that dhikr is really worth all the time. Do that dhikr and use that moment. You're driving, you're standing, just la ilaha illallah, making the dua. Make the dua even loud so others can hear you. So they could so they could say the ameen, and they could also sense that dhikr themselves. So that will be a reminder for them that that's what is more important. It's very important when you make a dua, make it loud so that your husband can hear it, your children can hear it, so they can sense it. It's a real thing. اللهم إني أسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين. Make the dua. Make the dua loud so they can hear it. That's the most important thing. That's that. The family, when you guys are together, when you're washing the dishes, let them hear it. I really like that. I mean, especially like the elders in, at least in Palestine, they would be walking down the street and they make it a habit to make the dua in a loud voice. They make it a habit to make the dua in a loud voice. And if somebody is not struck by hearing the dua, then their hearts are really closed. If the dua and hearing the words of somebody asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala something at that moment, and then at that moment, that second that you might least expect that the dua could have been answered might actually be the moment where the dua was mostly answered. That moment, you didn't expect it. Say Ameen, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will include you in it. اللهم أعني على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. Say it in loud voice. You'll teach the people around you, you remind the people around you, and you let others say Ameen, and you will hear it yourself. When I was younger, I used to be shy to do it. It was like, it's like somehow a type of nifaq, a type of hypocrisy. Showing off. In the beginning, you'll feel not used to it, and it feels like you're showing off, and later on you'll get so used to it. You'll get so used to it that it won't be showing off. You'll get so used to saying the words that you'll start developing a different sentiment when you're connecting with it. When you're connecting with it, a different sentiment that will be focused on one thing, that you just want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to answer your dua. But that's one thing for those that want to do classes, or even if it's a reminder, it doesn't have to be a class. And you could say, well, I don't have the degree. Review, prepare. You've got a book, and see if this book is good. If you don't know something, make sure you ask. Giving that halaqah or reminder for others it basically reminds you first. It reminds you first. In the beginning, you're going to feel scared. You're going to feel like, what am I doing? I'm not supposed to be in this position. But later on, little by little, you get used to it, and you'll start seeing the people in front of you. You'll start only seeing one thing, which is the words that you're focused on. This is what I call making these. جنات يدخلونها ومن صلح من آبائهم وأزواجهم وذرياتهم والملائكة يدخلون عليهم من كل باب سلام عليكم بما صبرتم فنعم عقبى الدار. So جنات عدن. What is جنات عدن? Jannah of عدن. يدخلونها. They will enter Jannah. ومن صلح من آبائهم. And only the ones that were pious from their fathers, from their spouses, and from their children. And the malaika would enter upon them from every single door. Yes, from every single door, the malaika are coming in. And what were they saying? Salamun alaykum bima sabartum. Why salamun alaykum bima sabartum? Because there's no way that you can get to Jannah unless you go through challenges. But if you think that you're going to claim a principle, it's not about the knowledge. It's about the application. Are you going to take the principle seriously? What does it mean to take it seriously? To take it seriously is to endure a lot of pain. It doesn't feel good. If you know that you can get something faster, and be patient about it. Most of us would rather, let me just go get it. No? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that Jannah cannot be whatsoever gained unless the person endured a lot of patience and endured a lot of struggle. A lot of struggle. They had to give up on a lot of offers, and they had to have the courage. بما صبرتم فنعم عقبى الدار. فنعم, what is ni'mah? It's an excellent final home. Here we go. Those who will enter paradise without reckoning or punishment. Let's see this hadith. The people were displayed in front of me, and I saw one prophet passing by the large group of his followers. Another prophet passing by with only a small group of people. Another prophet passing by with only 10 people. Another prophet passing by with only 5. Another alone. And then I looked and saw a large multitude of people. So I asked Jibreel, are these people my followers? He said, no. But look towards the horizon. I looked and saw a very large multitude of people. Jibreel said, those are your followers. And those are 70,000 in front of them, who will neither have any reckoning of their accounts, nor will they receive any punishment. I asked why? He said, for they used to not treat themselves with branding, nor with ruqya, nor to see evil omen in things. And they used to put their trust in the Lord Almighty. So what does that mean? Let me first quote the Arabic part of it. 70,000 يدخلون الجنة بغير حساب. 70,000 would enter Jannah without any accountability, basically. Who are they? الذين لا يرقون ولا يسترقون وعلى ربهم يتوكلون. How did they translate it here? So no branding, categorization. Is that how you read it? Nor with ruqya. So in Arabic, لا يرقون. What is الرقية? الرقية, there are two types. The first group of scholars said any type of ruqya. They said any type of ruqya, whether that was a ruqya that was made by the Prophet ﷺ or not. The other group of scholars, they said majority, actually says they don't do a ruqya to mean a shirki ruqya. What is a shirki ruqya? A ruqya is like voodoo. You know what voodoo is? You know what voodoo is? So
Voodoo is like that little.
voodoo.
Is that little. From what I
So
know,
they
that
would,
doll,
it's like magic.
Yeah.
Like sihr. It's a type.
And they put like the pins like on that.
Yeah, pins on it. They might actually give you lucky charms and might actually
Yeah.
give you some certain beads to tie, some certain necklaces to wear, etc. And they'll tell you that this is to protect you from evil, shayateen,
Yeah.
or give you healing, treatment, or whatever. It could be a ruqya, okay? So the Prophet ﷺ, in the ahadith, the Prophet ﷺ taught us about ruqya, but the ruqya that the Prophet ﷺ, that he taught us was a ruqya that is not shirkiyya. What's the evidence? Hadith in Sahih Muslim. لا بأس بالرقى ما لم يكن فيها شرك. There's nothing wrong with a ruqya if there is no shirk in it. So if you're not connecting and doing a ruqya where it involves shirk, then you would be included in this. لا يرقون ولا يسترقون. So the ruqya, whether you're doing it for others, يرقون, you're the one that's doing it, or يسترقون, or somebody seeking ruqya. They're asking you to do it for them. Oh? So if we're talking about non-shirki ruqya, wallahu a'lam, this is talking about it. So this is basically talking about you making a ruqya for others. You making a ruqya, a shirki ruqya for others. So it's whether, this is very common in African countries, in India, very common in India. They would even have their children, Muslims, they would even have their children always wearing like a little triangle necklace, or even a certain bracelet, because they would think that that's to protect them from.
We have a lot of that. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, in Tunis as well. Okay.
The hand.
Yeah, well, the hand is pretty much within the Middle East, all of it. Yeah, same thing in Palestine. Yep. So that would actually be haram.
They put
Sure.
actually grains of.
If it's something else, right? Besides the Quran. Is that what you
Anything
mean?
that's besides the Quran is going to be considered a shirki ruqya, unless you're reading like Quran on water, reading Quran on salt or stuff like that. Then that's not shirki ruqya.
يحطوا الجرين بتاع الحبة السوداء, or they put those on beds and stuff like that.
Well, that's different. To actually put the black seed on the bed, that's different, because are you believing?
ما احنا نقول لك على عين.
Oh, they would say علي. Okay.
Or salt.
Okay.
That's what we do.
You guys do salt?
نعم الملح زي.
Yeah.
We do use salt.
Salt, yeah.
Yeah.
هذاك حرام, right?
So with salt, it's actually a pagan thought, thinking that by putting salt that it keeps the evil eye away and all of that. That's actually a pagan idea. It has nothing to do with Islam.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing to do with
So
Islam.
they do it until now. They will put in on the salt, and then they do it all over your body, and then they throw the salt outside.
Okay. So if they're going to be reading Quran on salt, okay, and believing, so that's a tabarruk bil Quran and not the salt. Okay. So tabarruk bil Quran is permissible. That's why scholars have differences of opinions. If you were to do ruqya on water, right? I'm going to be reading Quran on water, and then of course pouring it over me. Oh, that's one very important method in ruqya. Very important method in ruqya. Reading Quran like on a bucket of water, and at a room temperature. At a room temperature. So we're reading, for example, al-Mu'awwidhat, and then you're blowing it on the water, reading al-Fatiha 7 times, blowing it on the water, and certain other ayat, and then at a room temperature, putting it over yourself. pouring it over yourself. Then scholars had debated. So do we have to collect the water, for example, and not let it go through the sewer? Or what do we have to do? So wallahu alam is that if the person didn't mean and didn't intend to disrespect the Quran, then it would be permissible. So you're going into the shower and you're pouring it over yourself. You're reading on a bucket of water and pouring it over yourself, even if it goes into the sewer. Because tabarruk bil Quran. Tabarruk bil Quran. If you didn't intend to disrespect it, that did not become Quran. The water didn't become Quran, right? It became, for what you read on it, it became, there's a tabarruk, there's a type of a blessing. Oh, do that every once in a while. Yeah, do that every once in a while.
So it's okay to do it with salt?
Is it okay to do it with the salt? Differences of opinions between scholars on whether you can do it even on more than salt. Okay, so why there are differences of opinions between scholars? Listen to this one. So the hadith لا بأس بالرقى ما لم يكن فيها شرك. That there's no sin, لا بأس, there's no sin, لا جناح, in doing a ruqya as long as it doesn't involve shirk. So then scholars had differences of opinions on whether we can do a ruqya as long as it doesn't involve shirk. So maybe Fadwa came to me and she said, you know what? I was having some problems between me and my husband. And I read Surah Yasin on salt. And I started putting the salt at the entrance of my home and putting it on myself and putting it even around the house, etc. And it worked. Let's just assume she said that. That was her experience. And she said, what did she do? She said, I read the Quran on it. Now, the first group of scholars, they said, the first group said, this is a bid'ah. Why? They said, well, we're not going to consider لا بأس بالرقى ما لم يكن فيها شرك with this type of umum because this is a type of ibadah. They said, this is a type of ibadah. To seek any type of healing or treatment is a type of ibadah. Therefore, the type of ibadah should only be taken from the Prophet ﷺ. So, ruqya is supposed to be within what was ma'thur. That's the first opinion. The second opinion, they actually said, no, if there is no shirk in it, in a personal experience, and they didn't involve shirk in it, then the hadith says, لا بأس بالرقى, then it's no problem as long as you don't have shirk in it. As long as you don't have shirk in it. So they said, well, there's no shirk here. They're reading Quran on salt or sugar or tea or whatever it is. You guys, there's a sound in the background, so please turn it down. So they said, well, لا بأس بالرقى ما لم يكن فيها شرك. We're going to take that comprehensive statement and leave it as is. That's the second opinion. Oh, that's the second opinion. So it's permissible. As long as you don't involve shirk in it. What does a shirk look like? Shirk is, number one, thinking that salt or what water or these things, that the power of healing or the power to give you protection actually comes from those items. That's shirk. Not the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See it? See the difference right here? So that's where that fine line is. Where's shirk and where's iman? All right? So the first group of scholars, they regarded it as a part of bid'ah. Oh,
So they wanted to do it to me. I said no.
Okay.
They wanted to do that to me last year in Tunis. I got really sick.
Mhm.
I thought we're gonna bring some salt and I was like, no.
Okay. Yeah, so now you know.
So what's ma'thur?
المأثور are ruqyas that the Prophet ﷺ himself did it.
Is it like the water?
Like the Prophet ﷺ basically had his hands,
Okay.
for example, and read قل هو الله أحد 3 times, قل أعوذ برب الفلق 3 times, قل أعوذ برب الناس 3 times, and blow in it, blow without spit. Some scholars said with spit. Yeah, just to mention it. All right, and then you would wipe on the person. All right, then you would wipe on the person. That's basically one side of ruqya. This is ma'thur. The debate is actually strong because Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, when he went to him and a group of Sahaba, look at the story. The Prophet, the Abu Sa'id al-Khudri and a group of Sahaba, they went to this town. And it seems like they thought it would be a good lodging area. So they go in this town, they needed food, water, but guess what? They refused to give them any. They refused to give them any. Then one person comes from this town and says, well, our chieftain is sick. Do any of you have a ruqya? So Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said, yes. What did he do? He basically read al-Fatiha 7 times. Read the Fatiha 7 times. And then it was mentioned, كَأَنَّ مَاءَ النَّشِطَ مِنْ عِقَالٍ. As if he was untied. Okay, you guys. As if he had been like a horse that was tied, and then you had just released the tie, and he became totally good. Now, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, there was an agreement I forgot to mention, that if he does get cured, that you would give us 30 heads of sheep. 30 heads of sheep, which would be equivalent to almost our times, maybe $20,000. It's a lot of money. Almost $20,000. All right. And sure thing. But they didn't take any of those sheep until they came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, well, this is what we did. And we took, that is a compensation for reading this Fatiha 7 times on this person. They took a compensation. 30 heads of sheep, almost $20,000. They took a compensation for it, and it worked. But they didn't want to take the money until the Prophet ﷺ had approved it. So they came to the Prophet ﷺ, but the Prophet ﷺ asked him one thing. He said, وَمَا يُدْرِكَ أَنَّهَا رُقْيَةٌ? How did you know it was a ruqya? He said, I felt it. So that's where the scholars that said that the ruqya does not have to be ma'thur, meaning that the Prophet ﷺ was Abu Sa'id al-Khudri getting some information that this was a ruqya? No. It occurred to him. It occurred to him. So can we also get something that can occur to me that, oh, if I were to read it on a pizza, if I were to read al-Fatiha 7 times on a pizza, that's good for my GI system and whatever it is? Good luck. It occurred to me that if I were to read this, it might actually be a ruqya. Can you actually do that? The first group of scholars that said it was a bid'ah, they said it's just not approved by the Prophet ﷺ, it's a bid'ah. Simple. Straightforward. Al-Madhur is only, it's a ibadah. It's a type of ibadah and you cannot use this evidence. The second group of scholars, they said, no, it doesn't have to be only what was approved by the Prophet ﷺ because he gave us a general statement. We'll leave it at that. Got it? So are you going to read on salt and pour over yourself? No? Okay. All right. That's all right. Let's continue. What time is it? 12:40. All right. We're going to stop at this one, inshallah. This is the last hadith. And then we're going to go into our fiqh.
And I have to go.
Okay. The Messenger of Allah, my Lord promised me that 70,000 of my ummah shall be admitted into paradise without a reckoning against them, nor any punishment. With every 1,000 are 70,000, 3 measures from the measures of my Lord. So pretty much within the hadith. So let's do a question and answer, whether in the topic or outside the topic, that's okay. So if you want to raise your hand, and even the people online, inshallah, we'll answer some questions. Go ahead, my dear.
Jeanine wants to read Surah Al-Ikhlas.
Wants to read me Surah Al-Ikhlas? I would love to hear it. Come get closer and read me Surah Al-Ikhlas. So Jeanine wants to read. Get closer, because I can't, I'm getting too old to hear you very well. Stand up. Come over here. So we've got someone that wants to read Surah Al-Ikhlas. So you could do it. Come on. Jeanine. Okay, you don't want to be too close. Read it from your corner.
Okay,
That's all right.
It's okay. You change your mind?
I want to hear it.
Yalla, Jeanine.
Hurry, come here.
Come back next to me then. You can do it from here.
Yeah, do it from there. That's okay. I would like to hear Surah Al-Ikhlas. Yalla, qul huwa. We'll help her, right? Should we read it together to help her? Yeah. قل هو الله أحد.
What? Okay, you want to do by yourself then? Okay, I already told you. Now you can read it.
Now you do it.
You just want to tell her that's it? You don't want to read it?
Oh, she just wants to tell me that she knows Surah Al-Ikhlas. Good job.
Okay.
I'm proud of you. Good job. All right. Let's see. But Turu Kita. I love the name. So go ahead, my dear. If you want to unmute yourself, go ahead. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
My question is regarding Salah. So I'm trying to get a book that I can help my kids about how to rectify this Salah, and also I want to teach them about what is their part in the prayer. Like you're supposed to, like the part, the condition of the Salah, the part in the Salah. So I myself need to work on that. So I wanted to get if you can tell me a book that I can buy.
We did actually do sujood al-sahu. We did cover sujood al-sahu the couple months ago, but I'll make the story short. Sujood al-sahu, to rectify a certain mistake done in salah, would mean if you were to add something in salah, or that is not a pillar, or if you are to basically miss out on something in salah, that's not a pillar. So what does that mean? I'm going to give you some examples that you could do sujood al-sahu on, okay, or sujood al-sahu for. So let's say you're talking about, you forgot whether did I do 1 rak'ah, did I not do 1 rak'ah? So in that situation, you're going to have to build it on the shorter number. And then at the end, you're going to do sujood al-sahu. Let's say, did I say Subhana Rabbi al-A'la? Did I not say it? Well, that's a sunnah you could do sujood al-sahu for. But you cannot do sujood al-sahu for a pillar, to rectify a pillar. So what does that mean? Let's say you forgot a rak'ah. You can't say, I'll just make it up at sujood al-sahu. No, that's a whole pillar. Let's say you forget to do sujood. You can't do sujood. You can't do a salah without sujood. So therefore, the sujood al-sahu would not rectify missing out on sujood, would not rectify missing out on reading Surah al-Fatiha, would not rectify forgetting a ruku', not doing the standing. All right, all those are pillars. So if you are to forget any of these, then that whole rak'ah must be repeated, and at the end of the salah, you would make sujood al-sahu. So if you forget a sujood, that whole rak'ah is going to be redone. If you, just the rak'ah or the whole prayer, just that rak'ah. So let's say you're doing Salat al-Dhuhr, 4 rak'ahs. And at the 4th rak'ah, or the 3rd or the 2nd, but you forgot to do 2 sujood. You only did 1. So you're going to consider that that whole rak'ah was not done. So technically you only did 3. Then you're going to redo a whole 4th rak'ah. And at the end, before or after doing the taslim, you would say, you would do sujood al-sahu. Sujood al-sahu is 2 sajdas. Is 2 sajdas. And then you would basically consider, because you had done a whole rak'ah, then in that situation, that's the way to rectify it. If let's say you forgot to read the Fatiha, if you forgot to read the Fatiha, that's a whole rak'ah gone wrong. You're going to have to do that whole rak'ah over. So the only times when you can do sujood al-sahu in replacement of a mistake in salah is if it's a sunnah, all right? If it's a sunnah to do, not something that is a pillar, all right? So let's say you forgot to say Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, all right? You can do sujood al-sahu. Let's say you stood up and Salat al-Dhuhr, you were reading in a loud voice. You were supposed to read in a low voice. You could actually, that's a sunnah, all right? That in that situation, you wouldn't do the whole rak'ah, you would just do sujood al-sahu. Oh, you would just do sujood al-sahu in replacement for that mistake. So can I do sujood al-sahu for not having wudu? No. Can I do sujood al-sahu for not dressing properly? No, that doesn't rectify. Sujood al-sahu does not rectify what is a pillar or a condition for salah. Can I do sujood al-sahu for not facing the qibla? No. No, can't do sujood al-sahu. It-tashahhud, good one. You can do it-tashahhud if we're talking about the second rak'ah tashahhud, that you had forgotten to do the tashahhud. If you left it forgetfully, but not purposely. If you left it on purpose, you would have to redo the whole rak'ah. But if you forgot it, then you can do sujood al-sahu. Did I answer your question? What's her name? Here we go.
Yes, yes, I have one more question about it. So the sujood sahu, does it matter if I do it at the end of the salah before I do assalamu alaikum, or I can do it after? It doesn't matter.
So there are differences of opinions between scholars. I'll make the story short. Some scholars said that the first opinion, they said no, sujood al-sahu, all right, is to be done after taslim. The second opinion said the sujood al-sahu is to be done before taslim. The third opinion differentiated between adding something extra and between reducing from the salah. They considered that if you would add, then you would do sujood al-sahu after taslim. And if you reduce, then you would do sujood al-sahu before taslim. So all those opinions actually have evidences to support them. So if you would do it after or before, inshallah, la ba'sa biha. They're all considerable opinions. I hope I answered that question. All right. Oh, poor thing. Is there another question? But Turu? Let's go for iPhone. It's really interesting when an iPhone can actually ask a question. Go ahead.
Okay, Salam alaikum, sister. How are you?
Very good. Alhamdulillah. Wa alaikum salam.
Good. Sorry, I was at work, so I kind of missed some of the lecture. My first question is, can I get the recordings for this class, or this class is not recorded?
No, it is always recorded, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so do you know how I can obtain that or no?
Yes, inshallah, if you're on our WhatsApp group, we will
Mhm.
post it there, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. And then my
And
second
also on the
question
YouTube
was,
channel.
okay, inshallah, inshallah. And then my
My
second
son is
question
telling
was,
you subscribe on the YouTube channel. My son is telling you, please subscribe on the YouTube channel.
okay, inshallah, I'm
Like and
gonna do
share.
it. Okay, inshallah. So then my other question was, sometimes I say Rabbi Philly, like before I do my tashahhud, because I forget that I'm not like in between rakas. So do I have to do sujood sahwi for that too or no?
You can
If
do,
that
if you
makes sense.
right. So for a sunnah, you can do sujood sahu for
Mhm.
any sunnah that you would forget. So if you
Mhm.
didn't do Rabbi Ghfirli, you can do sujood sahu. Okay.
No,
Or
sometimes I
let's
do
say
it
you
more
forgot.
than I'm supposed to. Cause like before I do my tasbih, I think that I'm doing my atahiyat. I'm sorry, I think that I'm in between rakas and I'm not. So I say astaghfirullah. So do I have to like? What do you
Okay.
suggest for that?
So right. So you want to stick to the sunnah, all right? But
Okay.
if you were to do sujood sahu,
Mhm.
because you didn't say Rabbi Ghfirli in between the sajdat, that's
Mhm.
permissible.
Okay.
And it's also permissible not to do sujood sahu for saying Rabbi Ghfirli in between the sajdat, because that's a sunnah too.
Okay. All right. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
وإياكم. So that's one thing is that when we're speaking about certain du'as in the prayer, like Rabbi Ghfirli, or maybe at the end of Salah, to actually do certain du'as, like asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to seek refuge from fitnat al-dajjal, fitnat al-mahya wal-mamat, etc. That's actually a sunnah to do. Having that dua always present is actually a sunnah to do. One thing that's important to talk about is a person going through a moment of OCD. Okay, this is very common that if your Islam's treatment for that, yes, sometimes you have to get medical treatment and really go to a psychiatrist and actually get a medication for it. That's a different story. But if a person is constantly going through this type of OCD, did I do 3? Did I do 4? And etc. You're going to assume, if you've got this OCD at that time, you're going to assume that what you're doing is right. And that's Islam's way of treatment for you. Don't let your doubt overtake you. You were fine. What you did was right. You're going to assume that everything is right, everything was done in place, and that nothing was done wrong. That's Islam's treatment for you. Even with wudu, if you have this OCD where, did I make wudu? Did I pass gas? Did I do this? Uh-oh, you're just going to assume you're fine. Keep going.
Or sometimes you forget the hand.
Exactly. Did I forget the hand? We're talking about a person that has a problem. Okay, a person that has a problem of Wazwaz. You're going to assume that you're fine. You did it. But if this doesn't happen frequently, and then all of a sudden, well, you know what? Did I actually do my hand? Then do it again. All right? Do it again. Because if you don't have that problem, then you would have to redo it. I'm going to assume that it was not done and not that it was done. Okay, I hope I answered that question. If there are any questions, even off topic, that's okay too. I'd be happy to answer them, inshallah. That's it. Everybody, okay, well, alhamdulillah. So should we end? Are you guys going to be here?
No.
No? Okay. So we're still gonna do the fiqh program.
Do we have a time before the Dhuhr?
I don't know, do we? 12:54? Oh, it's
Yeah.
okay.
So we have like. It's up to you, Aysha.
All right. So let us end right here. I think it was a long one. Let us end right here. We'll come back, inshallah, next week.
It's like a very happy one too today, instead of talking like that, like we were talking about the signs of Judgment Day, and now we're talking about like the happiness of Akhirah. That was Jannah.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, I mean, not
Everything,
wrong
you know,
thing,
there's,
wrong thing. Right, that Jannah. That's what I
to be honest, the most favorable thing and what actually, I mean, every person is different. But to me, what really motivates me is Jannah.
That's true.
I
What-
don't
that's
like
true.
thinking about hellfire at all. I really avoid thinking about it because, to be honest, that is too scary. I mean, that's for me.
think
Other
everyone's
people,
different.
what motivates them is thinking about hellfire. Me thinking about Jannah is what motivates me. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to get the reward.
It depends on the person.
It
Sometimes,
depends on
like,
the
people are like,
person.
oh, I want to avoid this.
Yep,
I want to avoid hellfire.
Yep.
Or like, I want to
Yep.
be in like Jannah.
right. What motivates me is thinking about Jannah. Yeah, definitely. But that's not the same for everyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned both.
Yep.
Mentioned both. But I absolutely am scared of thinking about hellfire. It's, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Nas'Allah al-afwa wal-afiyah. But Turu, go ahead, my dear.
Nah, I'm sorry to come back to that. I missed the round two about Palestine. I don't know if you have an idea about it.
Yeah, I do actually have that portion about Palestine that I talk about it. Inshallah, we will also put it on the WhatsApp group, inshallah.
Is it the podcast that you did? Yeah.
Not the podcast. There's the podcast. There's also the tafsir. In one of the tafsir classes, I was talking about Palestine.
Yeah.
In the first segment of it, I did talk a lot about Palestine. I think I spent half an hour talking about Palestine. We'll post it up there,
How
inshallah.
are the families compassion?
My family, alhamdulillah, it's definitely something unprecedented. The fear, and you want to keep in mind that although Israel wants to say that their civilians are civilians, even though they're armed, and that Gaza's civilians are not civilians, even though they're unarmed, but wants to assume that, hey, so wants to give itself the justification. But Israeli so-called civilians, Israeli civilians are fully armed. They'll be walking with a whole M16 and will be walking fully armed and will actually attack and harm others. And they want to call them civilians.
In Qudus?
Yeah, in Al-Quds, in all over Palestine, yes. So they'll be attacking people just randomly. So that's really scary. And that's really the area where, it can be something scary for. Yeah, because they can, when there's no law and you don't have any means of protecting yourself, then imagine with somebody that has their ideology that it is a good deed to attack and kill others.
But the trash is the good news. It's people are more aware now than they used to be before.
Well, I mean, yes, they're more aware, but you want to keep in mind that that it still does exist.
Yeah.
It still does exist. And right in front of all the footages, live, all of that, and still making fake and lies in order to support Israel. And all that raging. It's right. They would even use these the fake videos, AI and all of that to make fake photos to support their claim. And it's really strange how people, it's like, are you serious? And they were like, oh, 40 babies are beheaded. And it's like, 40 babies are beheaded. Women are being raped. And it's like, these people don't rape women, and they definitely don't behead babies. It's fake news right in front of all of us.
AI generated.
But then exactly, AI generated and fake news, and they'll use that fake news, and they'll basically want to use that fake news in order to let that fake news be the news that everybody believes in order to somehow give the justification that it's okay to harm these people, not treat them like humans, and so forth. Allahul Musta'an. So Sukna, I believe, go ahead, my dear.
Okay.
Oh, poor thing. She unmuted herself and then muted herself again.
Sorry, I have muted myself. Because I remember during one of the Zoom meetings you had talked about like how you had I mean, I guess you were giving advice on like if we wanted to do mental health, like how about Islamic, I think there's a program in London that you have referred to. So I wanted to know if there are any other programs because I'm looking into doing like mental health as a major, and I wanted to know like is there any programs out there so I can like basically
I
geared towards
actually
Islam.
did, right. So there are in UK, since you talked about UK, there is, I think it's called Cambridge, not Cambridge University, but there's a Cambridge institution, or they're actually giving like a graduate degree in Islamic psychology and so forth. There are actually a number of different people that are involved in that program. Definitely right now, the leading figure in psychology and mental health is definitely Dr. Rania Awad. I think she's right now one of the leading figures who's actually a professor in Princeton. So I think she's right now pretty much the leading person. There's also a couple within that Cambridge, look it up at Cambridge Psychology, put Cambridge Islamic Psychology, and you should be able to Google it and find it. The other thing is I do have a number of different, just put Aysha Wazwaz, Aysha, Wazwaz, and mental health on YouTube. And I actually have a couple lectures on that. And it's called mindfulness in Islam as well. So you can look it up as well. And inshallah, hopefully that would be helpful. There are a couple academic articles that were written by Amber Haq. I think he did an outstanding job. And he's a professor in psychology, but he did an outstanding job in talking about psychology and Islamic psychology throughout history, and طب النفوس and the things that relate to that. But I think Rania Awad is definitely the leading figure in that. She's been doing a lot of articles along with others. There is, I think, Wafa Institute or Khalil Institute. I can't remember if it's Khalil or Wafa, but Khalil Institute that is, I believe, in Chicago. They're also doing a lot of, let's say, Islamic treatment and Muslim treatment. They're, trying to embed Islamic psychology and also, from the Muslim lens in their Khalil Institute. Check it out. Rania Awad is part of it, so check it out. Inshallah, hopefully it will be helpful. So, inshallah. Okay. All right, so this is it, inshallah. Sukna, did I answer your question? Oh, no.
Yes, thank you so much, Sheha. You did. Yes, you did.
وإياكم. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam. You ladies take care.